So namaste and welcome to the Spiritual Women Writers Salon. Welcome to day 2, where we're going to be looking at the divine voice of women and empowering women's voice. We have a great lineup of speakers today, and our last one is with Vivian Glick, where we're going to be looking at empowering girls globally to end violence against women and girls and empower women in Africa and Uganda and India, actually, Uttar Pradesh. So that's our day today, is on women's voice, finding our voice. And I'm really honored to be here right now with my dear friend, Marguerite Rigoglioso. You say it for me. Rigoglioso.
Oh, perfect. You got it.
It's
Regal,
almost like regal.
regal, like a queen. That's what I always say.
Regal the queen, Rigoglioso. Yeah. Marguerite and I have been friends for quite a long time. We went to the same graduate school. We were not in the same department, but we saw each other. We might have taken maybe one class together in women's spirituality on the goddess. And I was so grateful to California Institute of Integral Studies. Let me read more of Marguerite's bio here. And I just want to say that I've been working my way through her most recent book. And when we got on, I told her, speechless. I am speechless as I'm reading this book. I have it on my Kindle and I've been devouring it, and I didn't want to stop for this interview. So I put myself on that couch for a few minutes of meditation to ground before this, because it's a wow. Okay, so let me introduce Marguerite. Marguerite is the inspired founder of Seven Sisters Mystery School. She is an award-winning author and a world-renowned teacher of sacred knowledge. She's a trusted mentor to people on the healing and spiritual paths. And she has authored 4 books. Let me read for you her titles. They are, her most recent one is The Secret Life of Mother Mary, Divine Feminine Power for Personal Healing and Planetary Awakening. And that's the one I've been reading on my Kindle. She's also the author of The Cult of Divine Birth in Ancient Greece, Virgin Mother Goddesses of Antiquity, and the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, Mary, and the lineage of virgin births. So this very powerful material, and we have a lot to talk about today about how you found your voice as a teacher, a priestess, an oracle, and an author, and the intersecting path of all of those. And I just want to start with saying welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Laura. I'm honored to be here with you and really delighted because I feel like we're going to have a fun conversation around all of this.
Fun is the word. I want to start by just calling in our physical spaces, and then maybe I will invite you to lead us off with a prayer. But I'm noticing in your space an image of Mary. Do you want to tell us what that is?
Yes, isn't this wonderful? It's a tapestry or a blanket, really, that my former colleague, now friend, Nicola D'Alonso, gave to me a number of years ago, back in 2019, I think. And I've occasionally used it as the backdrop for my videos, and I hadn't in a while. And when my book came out this past July, I decided to come back again to have Mother Mary behind me and having my back. I know it's such an amazing thing, and it's kind of subtle having her back there.
It's perfect. It's perfect. I also notice in your space the white woodwork, which has a resonance with the white flower that I have, which actually we newly purchased after my recent trip to Italy, where we saw this on so many of the churches, the rose window. And I looked for a rose window, which represents Mary.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. And the interesting thing is that the flavor of yours, as with mine, also is from India. You know, it's very, this is a common motif as well. And in my book, I unite the Indian stream with the so-called Christian stream through the work of Sri Kaleshwar and the Holy Womb Chakra teaching. So it's perfect, right?
So I'm going to take a deep breath as we get started. And in your book on Mary, you quote from one of the apocryphal gospels. I think it's the gospel, was it of Philip? Where you say that we see what we are able to see, and we hear what we are able to hear. And so I think the teachings in that book are so profound, and really, I think a lot of people would not be able to hear them. And so in a way, even with our, spiritually interested, spiritually aligned audience, I think we need to, before we step into this conversation, just take it up a notch. I'm wondering if you would be open to guiding us in a prayer to start us off.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So people can either just be eyes open or eyes closed or eyes cast down, whatever is going to help you go inwardly so that you can connect with your breath, connect with your body, every place it's touching the earth. And just start relaxing just a bit. Just feeling Mother Earth holding you. And as we do that, we call upon the energies of Mother Earth, her consciousness of Gaia, thanking her for all of her bounty and abundance, for holding us and helping us on this path. And we call upon Great Mother Divine and her manifestations in particular as Mother Mary, High Sophia, Mary Magdalene, the ones that I have been working with of late, asking them to be present, inspiring us all, because we know that Mother Mary had people carry mystical books with them. And it is possible that she too wrote, and possibly that Mary Magdalene wrote as well. So we're asking them to inspire us also with the gift of communication and empowerments for everyone who is finding their voice, expressing their voice, and healing their voice, be it through teaching, writing, or any other format. So thank you to these great masters, these great goddesses, and let the conversation commence.
Beautiful, thank you. There's so many different directions we could go. Your book, I have not read your other 3 books, full disclosure. I'm just looking at this one.
Okay.
Yeah. And you weave in so many genres, which I think is a beautiful metaphor for your teaching. You talk, let me see, you talk about it as intuition infused academic research. So you're
Yes.
including academic research, let's say, of the different scriptures from India on palm leaves, and scripture, the apocryphal gospels that are not in the canonical scriptures that we read now as the Bible, and intuition infused with your own spiritual practice and your time sitting with spiritual teachers. You also put some aspects of memoir in there.
Yes.
There's your
Yes.
story of your mother dying that was so gripping to me, the way you told that story, and your own healing. I guess maybe we could start with, what has it been like to walk this planet as a person who doesn't fit easily into any box? Even your book doesn't fit into one box. It's a blend.
That's right. And that's the source of a lot of anxiety for a lot of new writers. What genre am I writing in? What genre can I get published in by a publisher? Otherwise, I'm going to have to self-publish, all that kind of thing. I started out as a creative nonfiction writer back a few decades ago, and I have a number of stories that are in the Traveler's Tales anthologies that I was invited to submit to, some other anthologies like that. That was always my love, was memoir writing. And I would particularly love to do it when I would come back from a European trip.
Uh-huh.
In those hours of the first day back where you're like totally topsy-turvy, you're awake and the whole world is asleep, I would do all this downpour writing and got a few pieces written, during those time frames. And then I went to, I started writing a longer memoir about my awakening to the sacred feminine, to the goddess and all that. It never really got published. And then I ended up going to graduate school for women's spirituality, but it really was an academic program. And that got me into the academic path, the academic writing. And I spent a lot of time with that for years, writing my papers, writing my master's thesis, my dissertation, and then parlaying the dissertation into 2 academic books. All right. So then there was a 10-year period. Those came out 2009, 2010. And it wasn't until 2021 that the mystery tradition of miraculous conception came out. Now that was still academically grounded and somewhat toned, but it was much more friendly. I thought, if these books are going to get read, I have got to get out of the academic speak. Even though my first 2 books I think are readable, but it's just a scholarly tone and angle. So I was delighted to hear from readers to the mystery tradition of miraculous conception that it was readable, that they could read it in like 2 days. And I'm like, wow, that is intense material. Fabulous. If you're reading it quickly, I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
Because I write it, in the sort of academic way that I got used to. And then I'd have to go back and apply, some of the creative nonfiction little tools, little things. I mean, I could go through a page and show you how I did it. And then when I really got to The Secret Life of Mother Mary, I'm like, okay, you know what? Not only do I want to have my personal story in there and my spiritual story, so my emotional story and my spiritual story, but I must, in order for people to really be able to connect with this material. And so, over the years, I've been able to break away from the traditional, well, it's got to be one genre or another. And plus, I've been working with this wonderful publisher, Inner Traditions, and their imprint, Bear and Company. I mean, they took me in at the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, and then they just trusted me. And so when they saw my next book and how it was, basically already written, there's been very little except for copy edits and so forth. So they're my really perfect publisher right now. And so it really is a mix. It's an amalgam of strong, academically grounded writing, but friendly writing.
Yeah.
With my personal stories and with my spiritual path sharing.
And how did you find that publisher?
I had an agent. So
Okay.
my friend of mine from the California Bay Area, Byron Belitzos, connected me, himself, a publisher, connected me with Waterside Publishing. And his name is flying out of my head right now. He recently crossed over, I think in December. Bill Gladstone.
Okay.
He was a pillar known in the spirit community to promote authors, and he had been agent at various times for Deepak Chopra and various other people. And so made that connection. Bill had lots of connections in different types of publishing companies, and it goes to the top of the pile with those people. And Inner Traditions, just took it right away. There were a couple of other possibilities that didn't end up working out. And then for the second book, Bill took it back into, while he was ill, he took it back into Inner Traditions, and they took it right away.
Beautiful. And you've had a good relationship with him? That's been positive for you?
With Bill or with Inner Traditions?
With Inner Traditions.
A fabulous relationship. They are wonderful to work with. They are loving, hearted, spiritual themselves. experienced. I've visited them a couple of times up in Vermont. It's like a 2.5 hour drive when I went and recorded the audio of the most recent book. And John Graham is an absolutely wonderful editor-in-chief there. And we just all really hit it off. It's just a case of everything fitting together finally.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So for the listeners who know very little about what you teach about Mary, do you want to just encapsulate your message about Mother Mary? I just found it very moving.
Yes, so this book is really the uncloaking of Mother Mary, the rectifying of her image, the reclaiming of her image, flipping it out of a passive maiden who didn't know what was happening to her, and then we never hear from her again, into investigating what these apocryphal and Gnostic sources say about her, exposing that it was a huge master, a teacher, a personal healer, a teacher and mentor to the early community, including Jesus, including Mother Mary, including Mary Magdalene, including Peter, the whole apostolic group. One who removed demons, and one who experienced, not only did she achieve divine birth as a priestess practice, but she resurrected Jesus body and soul through these womb practices. And she made her final ascension, changing status from human to divine at the conclusion of the life in which we know her of Mother Mary as Mother Mary, which was a series of many lifetimes that got her to this place. That is the boilerplate, a short story.
Yeah, and it's hard to take in for people who've never heard it before. So I just want to breathe with you. I agree that is the bullet point. And one of the things that helped me as I was reading this was when you talked about her predecessors doing the same thing, like Sarah.
Yeah.
Also doing virgin birth, and the evidence for that
Yes.
was like, oh, I never had heard about that.
Yeah.
There's a whole lineage of women that were teaching each other these very high advanced practices of bringing light into the womb.
That's right. Light conceptions, a quantum type of yogic practice. That's the ultimate siddhi, the ultimate siddhic ability, the ultimate so-called miraculous ability that can work with the material realm in seemingly miraculous ways.
Can I read something from the beginning of your book? This was hilarious when I read this. First, you talk about an experience of surgery and coming out, and you were drugged and not sure what had happened. And then you just felt so much love and you're like, where am I? And you realized that you had friends blanket you in pink light of Mother Mary during the surgery. I have to say, one of my most powerful experiences of Jesus, the Christ, was during a very painful dental procedure. And I was studying my mouth was wedged open with this huge, I don't know, something in there. And I was studying with a meditation teacher who had us visualizing receiving the love of Jesus. And I'm in there, and I'm like, how am I going to survive this procedure? It was so horrific. And I just thought, God help me. And Jesus came and took me by the hand. Wow. And walked me through the green pastures. Like, it was literally like, well, you don't need to be here right now. Don't pay attention. I'll take care of you. It was so strong. When I was done with that, I was just weeping that afternoon. There was a picture of Jesus in a store here in Sedona where I was looking at some crystal bowls, and I just started weeping because that was like what I had been feeling in my.
Oh my God.
So I think there is something about surgery, and I love what you say about having
Yes.
friends pray for you at that time.
Yes, absolutely.
So you tell that story, and then you back up to when you were younger, and you say, it took me a long time to come around to Mary. Virgin Mary, Mother of God, Blessed Mother, whatever people called her. For the first few decades of my life, I wasn't very interested. Can you blame me? Many modern women have trouble with the image of a female whose main attribute has been celibacy. And you go on, and then later you tell the story of gradually getting closer to her. So did Mary help you write your books?
That's such a beautiful question. I just want to cry.
Go ahead.
Oh my gosh. You know, I never quite thought about it like that, but yes, I believe so, because there were many times where I was asking for guidance, going into meditation, um, aligning myself, working in sacred medicine ceremony. And so I don't know that I ever sat and said, Mother Mary, help me write this book.
Mhm.
But it was more the daily living of being with her, um, and the receiving of different concepts and things that I wanted to interweave, that I would say is how Mother Mary helped me write the book. As you see in the book, there are other places where I feel definitely her direct intervention.
Okay.
In that surgery room,
Yes.
when I was buying my house,
Yes.
and for the healing of a cyst from my ovary. So, um, but I think she's been undergirding the whole enterprise, right? How could she not be, really? I mean, I've been the dutiful scholar writer who's also been going through my own personal healing, for which I was calling on her, and my spiritual education, for which I was calling on her. So yes, she's got to have been there. And I kind of have this sense that she's governing who's going to read it,
Okay.
where it's going to reach,
Right.
you know. I kind of have had the sense, and I was told by these two channelers, if you will, in Mount Shasta years ago, they were so excited because they're like, we want you to know that your work is protected. And that did mean a great deal to me, because I've been pulling off veils here. And so I think the same is true here with Mother Mary. And the biggest way that your work is protected with Mother Mary is by you staying in your heart
Hmm.
and not getting into any fisticuffs with the authorities around any of this.
Okay.
And Marguerite, right? She's the hothead, she's the warrior. She has to watch out for that tendency. So, if I just kind of stay with the authentic, grounded teachings of Mother Mary, that is governing what is going on with this book, how I'm talking about this book, who's reading this book, what kind of a positive influence it's going to have. And it's a mystery. I don't really know. But when I hear comments like what you're saying, and some of the other people who've been commenting to me, and some people who've been interviewing me, I'm kind of stunned at the response. Like, whoa, okay, this is definitely more activation than, say, for my first few books.
Well, yeah. And for some authors, just writing their first book is in itself a very powerful initiation. And it sounds like for you, all of your books have been an initiation, and maybe this one especially.
I think so. I mean, that's um, a really smart point, Laura. Yes, especially this one, Um, and my very first manuscript that I wrote was, again, my personal memoir. And I wasn't really ready then. And I wouldn't have even wanted, in retrospect, thank goodness it wasn't published. That was a big kind of initiation. And then the other books were more academic. That was a kind of initiation. The Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception was that hybrid. I'm starting to change my voice. That was an initiation. And the material that I was unveiling was incredible. And now the Mother Mary, where more of my personal is coming into it, that is an initiation as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
You write about her schedule, like her daily schedule that enabled her, and we always know all the yogis and yoginis have a very intensive daily practice, and Mary did, according to what you write. And you even mention that from multiple sources.
Yes.
What is your schedule like? Like, how do you balance teaching? You lead online courses on Mary and the mystical tradition and the fairies and so many things. And you're an author now of 4 books. How do you manage so much?
Well, this has been my life's path and mission. And I received the other day hot off the presses when I was working in my own ceremony, that what I'm doing is a transmission, a transmission.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
For all you wordy people out there, you're gonna love that one, right? My life has been a transmission. Me being in my open state, oracle state trance, helping other people to be in their open oracle state.
Yeah.
It's a mission, and it's my greatest joy. It has been quite challenging at times, managing all of the many parts. You know, you and I have had conversations about this,
Yes.
and I have not had children.
Right.
I have not, I've had some long-term partnerships, and I'm partnered right now, but I don't have all that stuff to deal with and worry about. My parents have already crossed over, so I'm not dealing with that. And, there's pros and cons to all of it, but I am relatively free and clear to be able to do this work, which is a good thing because it is so much to hold and do, the many, many pieces all day long, the multitasking. I mean, it's so I have to keep myself tip top, and
Totally.
I've got to exercise, I've got to eat right, and I've got to do my morning meditation. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not up at 2 a.m. the way Mother Mary was, but by any means.
Yeah.
But at least I have something of a spiritual practice, and I'm dedicated to keeping that up. And I work a lot in cacao ceremony. I work some in cannabis ceremony to continue to open my oracle, my trance place for this mission. So that's kind of the short story for that.
Well, just backing it up a little bit, and then I'd love to talk about the plants, the plant allies. When you're writing a book, is it something that takes most of your time all day, or do you write like in a disciplined way, like 1 hour a day? Is that in the morning? Is that in the evening? Is it when you spontaneous get the inspiration, or do you clear your calendar to do your writing?
Yeah, I basically have to clear my calendar to do my writing. All of my books have been done in big chunks.
Okay.
The dissertation was done in a 9-month chunk.
Okay.
Yes, I was doing some other work, but I'd be going to parties and doing my other work, and the whole running ticker tape of my dissertation was going the whole entire
Yeah.
time. So intense. Then with the mystery tradition of miraculous conception, yeah, I went on sabbatical from Seven Sisters Mystery School
Okay.
for it took about 3 to 4 months to really write that book, because it was already in various forms I'd been teaching, and it was like a quick labor kind of thing. This one, I had already, when I was doing that first piece of the book, I really was writing 2 books. And William Henry said that to me. He's like, have you noticed you're writing 2 or 3 books when you write one? I'm like, yes. So it's like this was already partly born into it. And then I had to really go back and just say, wow, if I don't go back, the time is now, and set down for, I had to really devote a month to get this whole thing in order and get it off to the publisher. And then of course you're having to do the book proposal, which is a whole thing, another whole animal on top of it all. So yeah, I've had to have chunks. It's different if I'm writing memoirs or blogs where I'll be like, oh, I'll take a few hours and do this and that. But one straight book, you've got to have consecutive time from day to day, or at least several days a week where you can go to it.
Got it. Got it. Well, let's talk about the plants. I did not know this, but you mentioned that the ancient mothers were using plant medicine, as that there's evidence, it's like scholarly evidence, to open their consciousness. You mentioned Anne, the mother of Mary, going into her garden, and her male guardian, rather than maybe marriage in the traditional way we would think about it, went into the forest and was praying with her while she was conceiving in her garden, and perhaps partaking of the laurel tree,
That's
which
right.
I think of as my namesake. But tell us about that, and what is the evidence for them using plant medicine, Mary using it, and how does that inform your own usage?
Right. So this goes back to my studies, my research, and my publication of those earlier books on divine birth in Greece. Yeah, I found a whole bunch of stuff that was like, wow, she's drinking a sanctified draft from this spring. She's using, this or that. She's in an intoxicated state. She's in a sleepy state after having drunk that water that turned to wine. All these little, I realized, wow, okay, sacred medicine was alive and well and a big part of these women's lives. And then, fast forward to Brian Murarescu's book, the Immortality Key, where he was like, yeah, he just really goes into that big time. And so I knew that this was common in the ancient world. The Delphic Oracle was, in order to access her material, she was like, whatever, there were different kinds of plants that were being used. And then I was even seeing it in the Mother Mary material, like you're saying, and with the laurel, her mother, to conceive Mary divinely. With Mother Mary, we have this little message that she ate like a dove from the hands of an angel. You can't let stuff like that go. Like, it could just slip by your consciousness if you weren't already steeped in all this. But when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, then she's at the well drinking a kind water. I was able to discern she's imbibing these things, right, that are helping her expand to the open state that she needs to be in order to do this successfully. William Henry is huge on this, and he's saying, well, they were myrrhophores, they were myrrh carriers, and that this whole tradition of the myrrh was something that was put on skin. This and other things were ingested. I previously had looked at ancient Egypt and the incense that the priestesses would inhale, that the way they're describing it, you're like, wow, that is a altered state inducing incense, right? All these kinds of things we're putting together now, I and others. So that was that. Now, I myself was like a totally say no to drugs girl. And that was good because it protected me, right? For many, many years until I went to CIIS, met my then partner, and he introduced me to sacred mushrooms, to psilocybin. Well, I did those a few times and it was like way too high octane for me. It took me right into the underworld. And I realized there's a lot of personal healing I need to do to be able to handle this medicine. It took me 7 years to integrate those experiences. And then all of a sudden I found myself in a circle of women who were starting to eat cannabis brownies. And then I got completely overwhelmed and, had to drive home. Like, I barely was able to get home. And then I had this whole awakening and initiation that night to cannabis. And I started working with her, inhaling. And then I realized, oh, she's my sacred medicine. The mushrooms are too much for me. I am not feeling called to ayahuasca. That would be way the heck too much. I'm sensitive. So I would be working with cannabis only in a sacred way every 4 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Complete ceremonial capacity to open my trance state. Okay. And then I was introduced by Angela de la Agua in 2017 to cacao, which is even more friendly. You and I have experienced this, more friendly, grounded, heart opener, as well as consciousness opener, but you're very much in your body, where cannabis, I'm like, wow, I'm in the astral plane. So it's not like I'm, doing this every single day. I do it in a sacred way. I do it for certain purposes. And I can also open my oracle state without doing those, but it's easier and goes broader and deeper when I do. But, as the years have gone along, I just find that downpours are coming, like in this conversation together with you, in many of the interviews I've been doing in my classes. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in an altered state now. I'm just delivering oracle information infused with whatever I'm teaching. So, right, it's a developmental process. And yes, this has helped inform my writing, but you'll see that these books thus far have been really strongly grounded in the scholarship.
Right. And not what you're saying now, the downpour. So not needing the plants as allies to do that. It's just kind of more where you come from. As
Yeah, more and more and more.
Mhm.
Depending on who else is in the room, what I'm talking about, and thinking about, is the other person attuned to those levels?
Right.
Mhm.
Well, where I'd like to go is, if you'd be willing, since we're talking about voice, you teach about the syllables. I know you write about logos, and Mary's name is very significant. Maybe you could tell us about her name, and maybe we could do some chanting to close this out, or just
Oh, that
we could
sounds,
come towards wrapping it up.
yes, absolutely beautiful. And in my book, I've made it interactive thanks to my mentor, Patricia Anderson, who's like, I think you should make this book interactive. And so at the end of each chapter, I have a specific guided meditation that people can opt in for, sign up for, to get it for free. And one of them is a longer version of the chants of the Mary name. So the name Mary, the way I've researched it through D.M. Murdoch in her book Christ in Egypt, goes back to the Egyptian term Mary, which we would transliterate as Meri or Mery. What does that mean? Essentially, it's an honorific term associated with the goddess Isis that means divine love, the one who loves, and the one who is loved. So love, lover, and love all rolled up into one. It's a divine love title. So it would be describing these various priestesses who were focused on that and womb power. And so when we understand that the name Mary went to become Mariam or Miriam in the Arabic or the Aramaic and the Hebrew, then Maria and the Greek, and then Mary in the English, it's like, oh, okay. And this is also why there were so many Marys. And so I have a much more extensive discussion of that in this book and in the Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. And yes, I mean, I talk about how the name Mary has in it the seed syllables ma, which is mother, pri, which is like essentially self-love, and or om, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the alpha and the omega, the seed sounds of the universe combined with love.
Right.
And so people, I think, will really enjoy that longer meditation about this. But we can just do a few
Yeah, and maybe we'll let people just receive the blessing. So I'll close now before we go into the chanting, and I'll just remind everyone that under this video is a link to go buy any of Marguerite's books. And the second link is to her gift, and what she's offered us is the audios that go along. It's not the whole book, but it's the meditations that go with her Mary book.
Yeah. So that would be
That's there for you.
Blessed be. All right. So thank you so much, Laura. I will say thank you also. And just blessings to everybody listening, watching. May your writing be infused with inspiration and truly deeply connected to your purpose and your gifts in life. All right. So again, if you wish to close your eyes, you can. You can put one hand on your heart, one hand on your womb, or if you're a male listener, just on your belly. And just take a deep breath in, and we're just going to go with the Mariam mantra. And as you're doing this, just know that you are receiving and sending out into the universe the divine mother energy, the universal creation energy, and the self-love energy. And you can do it with me. Breathe. I'm going to turn my musician sound on in case that wasn't coming through. So let's do it again.
I'll be quiet so we can hear you. Now we're echoing.
Okay. Let me know if this sounds
I'll
okay.
just listen.
Ma. Breathe And one last time, really giving it your all. And blessed be.
Jai Ma.